you know what? Let's open it up for questions. Let's open it up for questions. I can talk and talk and talk. I'm not going to wind this down. You know what I am? Hang on. I am going to wind this down to a conclusion, and I'm going to restate what I stated in the beginning, which is that anything can be taught, anything can be learned. If you know what to practice, you can get good at anything, including humor. The works of Anders Ericsson, if you Google his name, and Carol Dweck, they have done science on this, basically saying if you believe that something is innate, that something is just given to you, it's a gift from on high, it's heritable, it's genetic, if you believe that, you are less likely to succeed in that endeavor than if you believe that this thing can be taught, can be learned, can be improved upon. If you believe that your efforts to become a better humorist, to become a better writer, to become a better basketball player, a better computer programmer, a better English teacher, I guess that means my timer's done. I didn't know that was going to be so noisy. If you believe that your efforts can make you better at any of these things, you stand a much better chance of succeeding in that endeavor. And the second part of this is that if you know what to practice, if you know where you're weakest, and spend your time practicing on those things that you're weak at, you will get better at them. Now, of course, the secret to life is discovering where you're no good and finding somebody who can tell you, oh, you're doing this all wrong, practice this instead. And it's tricky to do. But hey, you guys are at a university. There's a wealth of people around you who can help with that. All right. Let's open it up for questions. Questions regarding humor, questions regarding the lack thereof, which is mostly this tape, and anything else. And I've already forgotten your name, I'm sorry.
I'm Casey.
Casey, that's right, with a C-A. Casey.
Do you watch TV, and if you do, what do you think's funny right now?
I do not watch broadcast television. I don't have time. I wait for people to tell me something is awesome, and then I torrent it to see if it's really awesome. And if I love it for more than 3 episodes, then I torrent all of it and commit to buying the DVDs. And because I'm a grown-up who can afford these sorts of things, I then go ahead and buy the DVDs, and they sit in a box, maybe never getting watched because I've already got the torrents on my computer. So it's a curious sort of morality, but I'm owning up to it. That's the first part of the question, answered way too long. Do you watch TV? I could have said no. Community. Okay? And let me talk to you for a moment. About Community and what's the other show I'm going to name? Big Bang Theory. Okay? Here's the difference between the two. Where's the comic drop? Big Bang Theory, the comic drop is always on the nerd. Community, the comic drop is delivered by the nerd. I'm a nerd. Which show do I love more? Community. Which show is more popular to the wide world? Big Bang Theory. Why? Because of the placement of the comic drop. I would encourage you to watch an episode of Big Bang Theory and an episode of Community back to back and see what you do and don't find funny. Was that a good answer to your question? Awesome. Yes, sir. Spencer.
Yes. Would you say the principles of horror would be the same as the principles of humor, only they're horrible nega version?
I like the phrase horrible nega version well enough to say yes without having done any research. Okay, show of hands. How many of you have read anything that I've written? Okay, how many of you haven't? I just want to see how bad it. Okay, this is a great crowd to play to. It's like I'm not preaching to the choir. Okay, I wrote a short story called Flight of the Runewright, which is my first ever horror story. It's science fiction horror with sort of a Cthulhu-esque sort of feel. And when I wrote it, I tried to scare myself. I have a playlist of torrents that I paid for later of bumpers and stingers from a group that does, you know what the term bumper and stinger means? Scott might. Nope, even Scott doesn't. Okay, old days. Bumpers and stingers are the carts that they would stick into the broadcast tape deck. You know what tape is? Please. 21st century is killing me. That have little bits of music on them to establish mood. At the end of a TV show or at the end of a scene, you'll hear a little thread of music. Bumpers and stingers used for tension and horror and whatever else. A playlist made of nothing but this. It is an edge-of-your-seat playlist where, once it's randomized, you really have no idea what's coming next. I listened to that while writing a first-person, present-tense, unreliable narrator story in which horrible things happen to everybody. I think I did pretty well. Some of the folks who've read the collection that it's in said that my story was best. I think that's awesome because I think I'm awesome. This is not Comic Drop. That's a little joke. It needs way more love than that. Than that. I suspect that my success at it was, yeah, horrible negaversion. But the other success was running it through a writing group and having Bob Defendi say, wow, this is kind of happy. What do you mean it's kind of happy? Well, I know you want it to be scary, but his tone of voice is very humorous. Well, there's got to be some humor in there because I like writing humor. I want clever dialogue. I want there to be, you know, some character quirks that are funny. He said, well, that's fine. Just don't use the character quirks and the funny to break the tension. Oh, I learned a thing in my writing group. And so I went back and did some rewriting and moved the jokes and moved the tension. And now the jokes don't break the tension. The jokes set you up for a bigger fall at the end. Long answer, short question. Next.